maybe we should do 43.
Yes, they can actually go back to the drawing board and see, how to, change the oil benchmark. But as far as we are concerned, we're predicting that oil prices will not actually go below 45. I think it will range between $45 and $50 a barrel. So there's still a little headroom. But at the same time, for the benefit of the budget, and all our reserves, our fiscal revenues, our exchange rates as well, it means that they might have to, have talks about, changing the budget benchmark.
The threshold. You folks at FDC are comfortable at what level?
Well, we're comfortable between 45 and 50.
45 and 50.
Yes, that's the level we think it's going to be, except, OPEC comes up with a different decision to actually deepen cuts. Because it's very simple, supply demand. If supply is not cut significantly, because I think introducing Libya and Nigeria to the oil product would not have any significant effect, but if oil supply is not cut significantly, then there will be no significant changes to prices.
Who is going to get a haircut on July 24? That meeting is going to take place in Russia. I'm not sure Russia will agree to go under the clippers.
Well,
not too sure if Saudi Arabia would want to bend any lower, looking at his own budget deficit and all the new plans on economic recovery that Saudi Arabia itself is planning, and of course the war in Yemen and the face-off with Qatar and what have you. So these two big boys, these two elephants in the room, are not likely to bow down for another cut while Nigeria and Libya go home smiling.
Well, that's why we say the dynamics of the oil markets is much greater than the economics of it. It's actually deeper than that. So we think that there's some political issues regarding, some of these countries as well that are driving what we see in the oil market. So, well, it's from what Russia, Saudi Arabia have, discussed, it seems like they would never, support deepening cuts. But I think by the time they have the meeting and things come to light, they discuss some things for that we don't obviously know what they will be discussing, but we should actually see them. The thing is, OPEC, they always come up with solutions that we never really expect. Like the last year, November, by the time they came out with the oil production cut, we're all surprised that, wow, okay, they're actually making a move. So we should obviously keep our thoughts, on the fence. Like, they might actually deepen cuts, we don't know. They might include Nigeria, Libya. Libya is still facing a domestic crisis, so I'm leaning towards just including Nigeria in the production cap.
That's going to be some pretty bad news.
It is.
It's going to be bad news. Either ways, oil prices at this level and domestic oil market in terms of local oil prices or petrol prices at the retail end. Any impact in the short to medium term?
In the short to medium term, we don't actually believe there will be any significant impact, but definitely the templates, the pricing templates, might be reviewed by the government, but that we don't actually see that happening in the short to medium term, anyways.
We need a lot of money. And going back to what is happening in the U.S., it looks like the United States shale oil is taking everyone else to the cleaners, as it were, in terms of the volume of investments and going in there. We need these investments on our own side, so we're tinkering with a number of things in our own oil industry. Do you think the price of oil going around that, even at your level of optimism at FDC at 45, as the threshold to the north to 50, do you think this is still enough room for any oil companies out there to say, look, I want to increase my stake in Nigeria, or I want to come in here and do business? Considering, again, if you look at the cost at which we drill oil here versus the U.S. environment.
Well, it depends. All companies would actually come in as long as they're making, a certain margin on their in the investment. But at the same time, all prices at this level is not good for anyone anyways. So
it's good for the US.
Yeah, it's good for
It's
good for him. But I feel like in the long run, it seems like shale, because at some point when oil price dropped to below 45, you saw some cutback in the US production. So at some level, by the time it gets closer to the cost of production, they start to pull out. So
because even the US can't keep inflation target at that level forever. And folks out the street are saying, look, we just got to let this inflation go.
Yeah, so that's why we believe that this dynamics of the oil market is just in the short to medium term. At some point, it would start to see, like we predict that, hopefully by the end of the year, oil price should at least be at about $60 a barrel, given the fact that, OPEC is making a move, and at some point, the U.S. would not be able to continue producing at that level.
$60 a barrel. Who's buying oil and who's not buying? There's this major problem about, yes, we have supply, but again, about demand. The demand side of things looks like the most sticky part of the entire conversation.
It is. You know, China is one of the largest countries that demand, oil. But at the same time, they have even changed the dynamics within their country. They're trying to also produce oil, reduce their consumption. And also in different countries, they're also trying to, like I mentioned earlier, the fuel efficiency and all that. And
with the electric cars coming.
The electric cars coming in.
News.
It's bad. It's
good for the environment.
It's very good, but it has been in the works for a very long time now. So we shouldn't even be surprised that, there's a move. And if you notice, a long time ago, coal was the most important thing, coal, iron ore, and then we moved to oil. So as we proceed, the dynamics of the world is changing.
The world is changing. The world is changing. That's a very, very interesting story if it changes to better health, cleaner environment, and what have you, and we can do away with dirty fuels in our cars. But it looks like all is going to be with us for quite some time to come.
Yes, it definitely will. But, like I said, we should actually expect a dramatic change to, the way because now demand has not picked up for a very long time now. And, that's why we found ourselves in this issue in the first place. Because there was no issue of, supply glut, and the demand was there. But some of these countries are realizing that, maybe we can do without this oil that we're actually, so dependent on.
A world without oil. That's your parting shot. Yeah. Thank you very much. Bolanle Olutosin. Imagine a world without crude oil. I need to sleep over that. You need to do the same as well. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the family planning. Nigeria made some commitments in 2012, 5 years ago, to increase its financing of family planning in the country. If we do investments in family planning, which could be saving $3.8 billion every year